The police call came in at 3:13 p.m. A husband and wife walking their dogs along a wooded trail in Linear Park had stumbled onto something they didn't immediately recognise as real. At first, they thought it was a training dummy. Then they saw the blood. Then the movement. A teenage girl lay halfway down a set of steps near a bench, bleeding heavily, surrounded by leaves and dirt. Two figures had just disappeared down the trail ahead of them, both dressed in dark clothing, hoods pulled up. By the time emergency services arrived, it was already too late. The park sat just north of Birchwood, a quiet suburban town in northwest England, roughly halfway between Manchester and Liverpool. Birchwood was known for its housing estates, shopping centres and walking trails, a leafy, unremarkable place where very little ever seemed to happen. Linear Park itself followed a disused railway line, more of a long corridor of trees than an open green space. On a Saturday afternoon in February, it should have been empty. Instead, it became a crime scene. The girl was identified as 16-year-old Brianna Gay. Brianna had left her house earlier that day alone, something she had rarely done before. Anxiety had often limited how far she could go on her own, but that afternoon she boarded a bus without assistance and sent her mother a message explaining she was meeting a friend. The journey took about 15 minutes. When she stepped off, she wasn't greeted by just one familiar face. Waiting nearby was Scarlett Jenkinson, 15 years old, a recent addition to Brianna's school. Standing with her was Eddie Ratcliffe, a boy Brianna had never met. The three of them began walking together toward Linear Park. To anyone passing by, they looked like ordinary teenagers killing time on a weekend. They walked the mile-long stretch from the bus stop toward the park entrance, chatting, moving farther away from streets and houses. Once they reached the secluded section of the old rail line, out of sight, out of earshot, everything changed. Less than an hour later, Brianna was dead. She had been stabbed 28 times in the head, neck, and body. Investigators quickly focused on Scarlett Jenkinson. Brianna had named her in messages sent earlier that day, and phone records confirmed they had arranged to meet. Scarlett was known to Brianna's family only through conversation. Her mother had never met her. But the connection was enough to put Scarlett at the centre of the investigation almost immediately. From Scarlett, police were led straight to Eddie Ratcliffe. Both were arrested simultaneously the following evening.
At this moment, because the information I have received, you are under arrest on suspicion of murder. Obviously you are under caution, so anything you say is getting recorded. Okay?
If me being suspect is because I was the last person that's seen her, or how come I'm suspect?
Pardon?
How come I'm a suspect?
How come you're a suspect?
Because I'm the last person that's seen her, is it?
I don't know. All the information I've received is you are a suspect, okay, for the murder.
Yeah. You Eddie?
Yeah.
Eddie, you're locked up suspicion of murder, alright? You don't have to say anything, but you may harm you eventually don't mention when questioned. So you later line in court, and if you do say evidence, do you understand?
Yeah. Well, let's just unlock these. I can't explain it.
No, listen.
Right, listen.
Do it all on interview, alright?
Yeah.
You're going to take it to the wrong corner, you'll be interviewed about it, they'll ask you questions, alright?
Yeah.
As officers searched their homes, a disturbing picture began to emerge. Scarlett had transferred to Birchwood Community High School only months earlier. She had been removed from previous schools, most recently after bringing cannabis-infused sweets onto school grounds. While her background checks flagged nothing alarming, there were incidents that had never resulted in formal charges, including an earlier case in which a younger student became seriously ill after consuming sweets Scarlett had given her without explanation. At school, Scarlett kept largely to herself. She told classmates she practiced Satanism and claimed to be a witch. She spoke openly about blood rituals and dark fantasies. Over time, she became close to Brianna, particularly within the school's inclusion unit, where Brianna spent much of her time due to severe anxiety. Behind the scenes, Scarlett was forming a different bond. She had been friends with Eddie Ratcliffe for several years. Eddie was described as academically gifted but socially isolated, diagnosed with autism, selective mutism, and extreme anxiety. Scarlett and Eddie shared a fixation on violence, serial killers and graphic media. Messages between them revealed months of conversations about murder, torture, and killing fantasies. Scarlett kept lists, she kept diaries, she documented names. Brianna's name was at the top. Evidence later showed that Scarlett had previously attempted to poison Brianna. The attempt failed, leaving Brianna violently ill. Had it succeeded, it may have been dismissed as self-harm due to Brianna's history. Something Scarlett appeared to understand. The plan for February 11th was written down in advance. Meet Eddie first, wait at the bus stop, walk together to Linear Park, use a code word, attack. As Brianna sat on a bench in the park, Scarlett struck first, stabbing her before passing the knife to Eddie. He stabbed Brianna multiple times before handing it back. Scarlett continued the attack, delivering the majority of the wounds. Afterwards, they dragged her body deeper into the wooded area and attempted to conceal it with debris. CCTV later showed Eddie boarding a bus away from the park, wiping blood from his clothing. Both teenagers went home. That evening, Scarlett posted a tribute online, describing Brianna as one of the best people she had ever known. At the same time, she texted Eddie asking whether he thought they would be caught. She reassured him that local police were incompetent. She asked if she could keep parts of Brianna's body as souvenirs, teeth, an eye. Their messages left nothing to interpretation. Police recovered a hunting knife and blood-stained clothing from Eddie's home. At Scarlett's house they found her diary, detailing the murder plan down to the date and time.
There was no way she could have known, but this was the moment that Brianna Jai left her home for the last time. A Saturday morning, on her way to meet people she thought were her friends. Earlier that day, the 11th of February, Scarlett Jenkinson had texted Brianna, telling her to meet her and Eddie Ratcliffe in Colchester. She was luring Brianna to her death. Brianna left home at 12:45, walking a mile to the bus stop that Jenkinson had told her to go to, even though there was another right by her house. Jenkinson had also told her to buy a child's one-way ticket. Brianna was an anxious teenager, and she texted her mum, "I'm on the bus by myself. I'm scared." But her mother Esther was proud of her for going out of her comfort zone. She met Jenkinson, referred to throughout the trial as Girl X, and Ratcliffe, Boy Y, at the bus stop outside the local library. They walked past a Sainsbury's, where minutes earlier the pair had bought bottles of Dr. Pepper and Coca-Cola that would eventually tie them to the scene of the crime. As they walked through a series of alleyways, the group were last seen on CCTV heading towards Linear Park at 2:02 p.m. Brianna had little more than an hour left to live. As the teenagers walked through the park, they messaged each other on Snapchat about a plan to take drugs together. What exactly unfolded over the next few minutes is known only to Jenkinson and Ratcliffe.
In trial, Eddie communicated primarily through typed responses. Scarlett showed no remorse. Both were convicted of murder. Scarlett Jenkinson was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 22 years. Eddie Ratcliffe received a life sentence with a minimum term of 20 years. Brianna Gay was 16 years old. She was known for her humour, creativity, and online presence. She lived openly, confidently, and unapologetically. She had struggles, but she also had plans. Her life ended on a wooded trail in a town where nothing like this was ever supposed to happen. Linear Park returned to silence, but the story never did.
Scarlett and Eddie, for Brianna's murder, you are to be detained at His Majesty's pleasure. As you know, that is a life sentence. I must also set the minimum time before you can be considered for release. But how long you will actually serve will not be decided today. You will only be released if, in the future, it is decided that you no longer present a danger. I don't want to dwell on the murder itself, but it was brutal. The injuries inflicted with the knife Eddie had bought a few weeks earlier were awful. Your motivation, Scarlett, was to act out your fantasies. The messages show you wanted to make a real victim feel pain and fear. Your actions after the event and what you have told Dr. Church confirm you enjoyed the killing. Eddie, although your motives may not have been the same, you knew what Scarlett wanted to do and why. You understood her desire to see Brianna suffer. You actively participated in this brutal murder, knowing the sadistic motives behind it, and you cannot avoid the consequences just by saying you did not have the same desires. I find also that you, Eddie, were motivated in part by hostility towards Brianna because she was transgender.